got this comment from like internet trolls and whatnot, like, you asshole, you like let a rapist walk free. I went to a club one night and we went with like a big group, but slowly the group's disintegrating. So now it's just me and one friend, and I'm pretty drunk at this point.
In REHUMANIZE, we have this traumatic tale of this young girl who was raped. But she chose to handle her sexual assault in a different, unconventional way. She's going through this court system and just finds that it is not working for her. And what I took away from this doc mainly is that if it really hones in on the issues that girls and women that are raped and choose to report have to go through when they're trying to accuse their rapist, and how this system that is set up is very much based on treating the victim as a criminal who is forced to prove, the truth of her assaults, rather than feel that she is being given a sense of release or being apologized to for the assault. The way it is set up, it's either you're right or I'm right. So it's very rare that, in a court proceeding that you're going to get that feeling of, oh, I realized what I did wrong and I'm sorry. You're going to get like, instead, well, what were you wearing to entice him, or what were you doing to make him think it was consensual? And it just feels like all of this is very re-traumatizing, which is why so many victims don't come forward. And so she decided that, her ways of dealing with this were going to be to write a book of poetry about it, and to also look into restorative justice instead of utilizing the current system. And she discusses how through this process of restorative justice, she was able to get a sense of peace. And restorative justice is, it's not necessarily going to be a jail time situation. It can happen in a lot of different ways. But how she's decided to do it it's more of like a discussion in which this accusant has an opportunity to showcase remorse, to understand what the victim and the victim's family went through, and has an opportunity to give their side and allow some humanity into it if they choose. And it was a process. It wasn't this perfect thing. There was moments where the accusant still wasn't fully accepting of their wrong throughout that process. But then there was a moment also where he had a female friend who he cared about or was dating who went through a similar situation. Sometimes when we think of rape, when you're out of you think of, oh, it's a dark, desolate alley and someone pulls you in. But rape is so many different things. Sometimes you're out at a party and sometimes you are drinking a little bit, and sometimes someone doesn't understand that, you're saying no, or the alcohol has inhibited and made everyone so uninhibited that there's this idea that like, oh, you're with this, but no, you're really not. And there's just so many different ways, and all this stuff becomes muddled because everyone has their own opinions on it. And I think that it wasn't until he kind of realized that I have a friend who went through the same traumatic thing that I did to someone, and she is telling me how much it affected her, and I'm seeing it in a different light because I realized that I'm that person, that you started to see that aspect of remorse and that aspect of, oh, wow, what have I done? And that aspect of guilt and all of that stuff that she needed to feel at peace. And you get the sense that she is at peace. She is able to talk about this in such a peaceful way, in such a way that she's removed. And it's like beautiful to see, because when you think of victims of sexual abuse, sometimes they are crippled forever by the abuse. They are crippled forever by the memory of it. And it does feel like with her, she has able to release it through this restorative justice process. And in also seeing that he realized how traumatic his actions are, she's able to get this sense of release it's all about passing on the healing instead of passing on the trauma. And I think that sometimes with this criminal system, the way it's set up with rape in particularly, it does pass on the trauma, it does reignite the trauma, it just sets the trauma at stage one all over again. It makes you relive it. And that just doesn't feel like a healing process. Whether restorative justice is something that you would want or not, it does feel like it's an option that should be always considered, because I just see the sense of peace that she has from the situation. And, you know, it was great to see how her choosing to do this affected some people positively. Some people weren't with it. Some people feel like, oh, you let this rapist go free. But even though the documentary opens with that statement, she's able to say that with such clarity and understanding that, yes, some people feel this way. I don't. And it just feels like there's some real strength here from this woman. And I think that she chose the best thing for her.
This is regarding the documentary Rehumanize. And first, I just want to give credit to this, you know, beautiful young woman who has been so vulnerable in sharing her story with an audience like this. That takes a lot of courage. And, you know, doing the restorative justice that she did alone takes, I can't even imagine what that takes. I know that the other alternatives did not seem any better as far as going to court, going to trial, or dropping the charges. So actually, this was very informative to me. I had never really heard of restorative justice before. And it just seems very special and has to be probably for the right people. But this was one of those situations where, wow, it just seems to have had such a dramatic effect on the situation and the people, and for everybody, not just for one person or the other. And just the way the trials, you know, I've watched some trials before or in movies where you just have such frustration that somebody can't just openly speak about their experience. It's through questioning in such a way that just blames people right off the bat. So I really like this a lot. Such a sad, you know, horrible thing that happened to her, but also very inspiring to watch somebody really go after something they needed in a very just amazing way. I mean, getting the people on your team, on your side to do this with you, and those people just being so open to this process as well. I mean, the pieces fell into place for her, but also because she tried. She really went after it, and I think this was awesome. I think that her need for that guy to feel apologetic and for her to see his humanity, and then his friend, you know, crying during the circle. I just feel like, you know, it is about rehumanizing the situations and people, and I just thought this was just wonderful, a wonderful way to sort of take a traumatic experience and make the most of it, I guess. Find some kind of way to come to terms with it with the other person. Like that's amazing to me, and to be able to move on and know that you know, this person will hopefully not do this to another human being. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable, and well done on the whole video. I really liked the soft tones of the lighting and the, you know, what she was wearing and the couch. I really liked the relaxed atmosphere, and that it was very simple, and you know, most of it was presented like that, and I just appreciated that because it really just went along with the whole tone of it. So great job to everybody.
This film is called Rehumanize. This was an incredible short. We meet Marlee, who meets and forgives her rapist around the framework of restorative justice. The candid interviews of Marlee and others were so heartfelt. Her lawyers were understanding and client-focused and honest. So glad to see that the meeting helped her so much. The gentle soundtrack was perfect for this film. Being from Toronto, I also appreciated the shots of the Toronto University. What also set this film apart is the effective animation, especially of the images of the eyes, as the eyes of the people involved really opened. So glad to hear that by the end, Marlee is really promoting restorative justice. Excellent work.
Rehumanize was extremely powerful. I'll be honest when I admit that I did not know that restorative justice was a thing that existed. Uh, I also didn't know, to be completely transparent, how extremely messed up uh, the legal justice system is for the victim. You hear about it and you think it's very open and shut. You take it to court and you get your justice. But hearing how lawyers will ask very provocative, triggering questions to provoke a victim, and the fact that realistically, yeah, in a legal setting, because there's the fear of consequence, an alleged abuser is not going, if they've done it, they're not going to reveal that they did it, because they know that if they do, serious repercussions will be on the way. So at the end of the day, it's never about growth or learning from your mistakes or righting your wrongs. It's about punishment. And the fact that there is an opportunity for someone to potentially grow from this, and granted, not everyone wants to grow, which is unfortunate, but the fact that there is an option to try, to attempt, I think that's worth looking into, because at the end of the day, it's not about revenge or punishing. It's about healing and getting through this pain. And if this is something that can help alleviate that pain, I definitely think it's something worth looking into.
Rehumanize. Wow. This was another film that was so incredibly well done. Right from the get-go, it immediately captures your attention. It's laid out so perfectly, and trust me, it's what Marlee went through was absolutely horrific, and it's difficult to listen to. But what she decided to do about it, I have to commend her on, because that's true strength. And that's what this story is really about her true strength. She wanted to do something that was true to her and that was going to be right for her in restorative justice. And I learned something. I had no idea that restorative justice even existed until this film. And what a way to go. I think that it's such a beautiful thing to be able to sit down. And I have to be honest, I don't know if I were in her shoes. I don't know if I would have gone that way, but I would have liked to believe that I would have, if that makes any kind of sense. Anyway, I know that there's a disclaimer at the beginning of the film about how the animations are temporary and, the color hasn't been done and things like that. And it's not quite finished. But you know what? This film was so well put together, I didn't even notice any of that. I was so riveted by the interviews of Marlee and the two lawyers and the story of what had happened and where she was going with this, that I barely noticed anything else. I think that you guys, editing-wise, did a fantastic job with the flow of this. I thought that it was really, really well done. And I was glad to see restorative justice kind of at its best. And thank you for letting me know about it. Fantastic film.
Rehumanize. This documentary was told with such intelligence and was so sensitive to the subject matter. It really explained well, got to the heart of the matter for what restorative justice is and how it's meaningful for victims, and also a step in the right direction for offenders. I'd heard of it before, but there was so much in there that I learned that was new, and one of those things was that lawyers can be involved. That was very informative. I really appreciate too the animated pieces that help soften the blow of the difficult parts of the story, and hats off to the filmmaker for getting this story out there. And I was so glad I got to be a part of viewing this documentary. Thank you.
I think this girl is incredibly brave. She did something I couldn't do. I'm more on the side that rapists should be castrated, which makes her a lot braver than me, and she clearly has a really, really big heart. She's talking about something that could help other victims. I know it's something I've never gone through, so I can't talk personally on it, but I think it is something because victims should know there are different types of justice, and they should find what one works best for them and with the crime. I do think the guy probably manipulated her a little bit. I felt that from when she was talking about what's happening in the circle. But if she feels happy with what he says, that's all that matters. Her healing matters. And the fact that she chose not to release his name also makes her a brave woman, and she decided, not like other women where they want their rapist name out there and their lives ruined. She has a big enough heart that she doesn't want his life destroyed for a mistake he made as a young man. She's well aware that this will follow him around his entire life. It's incredibly brave, and it is a story that should be told because, like I said, restorative justice is something we don't know about, and it should be laid on the option so victims can choose which option feels best for them, whether they should put the guy in jail or go forward with this process. So it was an amazing story to share.